Tonight, a political and economic earthquake has rocked the nation, sending ripples through every corner of American society. The air in Washington is thick with tension, as lawmakers, business leaders, and everyday citizens grapple with the magnitude of what has just unfolded. The Supreme Court has struck down the controversial Trump-era tariffs, a move that has sent shockwaves not only through the halls of Congress, but also across Wall Street. The decision, announced late this evening, has left both political analysts and financial experts scrambling to assess the immediate and long-term consequences. This landmark decision calls into question years of U.S. trade policy, unraveling a complex web of international agreements and economic strategies. It sets the stage for what many are calling a massive financial reckoning, as the country now faces the daunting task of recalibrating its approach to global commerce. Billions of dollars collected under these tariffs may now have to be refunded to businesses and consumers alike. This could become one of the largest government payouts in American history, with far-reaching implications for the federal budget and the broader economy. The logistics of processing these refunds are staggering, and the financial markets are bracing for volatility. At the heart of the case was a fundamental question: did the executive branch overstep its authority when it imposed these tariffs? Businesses argued that the tariffs were enacted unlawfully, bypassing established legal procedures and checks on presidential power. The court's ruling has now set a powerful precedent, redefining the limits of executive action in matters of trade. While this ruling brings closure to one chapter of a bitter and protracted trade dispute, it simultaneously opens another, one filled with uncertainty, legal challenges, and diplomatic negotiations. The world is watching closely as the United States navigates this uncharted territory. What does this mean for American manufacturing, for our already complex relationship with China, and for the billions of dollars that have been collected under these now invalidated tariffs? Factories, exporters, and importers across the country are anxiously awaiting answers, knowing that their futures may hang in the balance. The rules of the game have changed overnight. Tonight, we break down what this monumental Supreme Court decision means for you, your family, and the nation as a whole. From the price of everyday goods to the stability of international markets, the impact will be felt far and wide. This is a moment that will be remembered for a long time, a turning point in American legal and economic history, and a story that is only just beginning to unfold. To truly understand today's Supreme Court ruling, we need to revisit the origins of the policies at the heart of this legal battle. The story begins several years ago, during a period of growing concern over America's role in the global economy and the impact of international trade on domestic industries. In 2018, the Trump administration launched a sweeping series of tariffs targeting hundreds of billions of dollars in imported goods, most notably from China, but also from other major trading partners. These tariffs were designed to address what the administration described as unfair trade practices, including intellectual property theft and forced technology transfers. The stated goal was clear: to protect American jobs and industries that were seen as vulnerable to foreign competition. Supporters argued that these measures would revitalize sectors like steel, aluminum, and manufacturing, which had suffered from years of plant closures and layoffs. The administration invoked Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act of 1962, claiming that national security concerns justified imposing tariffs, even on goods imported from long-standing allies. This was a controversial move, as it expanded the definition of national security to include economic factors. This marked a dramatic departure from decades of U.S. policy that had largely favored free trade and open markets. For years, American leaders had championed international agreements that lowered trade barriers and encouraged global commerce, but the new tariffs had immediate consequences. American companies that relied on imported materials and components suddenly faced soaring costs. Many businesses were forced to make difficult choices: absorb the losses, cut jobs, or pass the higher costs onto consumers. The result was higher prices on a wide range of goods, from electronics and appliances to everyday household items. News outlets reported growing fears of a damaging trade war, as other countries retaliated with tariffs of their own, targeting American exports. Supporters of the tariffs insisted that these short-term pains would lead to long-term gains, arguing that the policy would bring manufacturing back to the U.S., create new jobs, and strengthen the nation's industrial base. Critics, however, warned that the tariffs would ultimately harm the broader economy, disrupt global supply chains, and invite costly retaliation. The debate grew increasingly heated, setting the stage for a series of legal and economic battles that continue to this day. The tariffs created a climate of uncertainty and division, with businesses, workers, and consumers all caught in the crossfire. Many struggled to plan for the future, unsure of how long the trade tensions would last or what new policies might emerge. Now, that uncertainty has reached the nation's highest court, as justices weigh the legality and long-term impact of these sweeping trade policies, a decision that could shape the future of American trade for years to come. The legal fight wasn't about whether tariffs are good policy, but about the rule of law. At issue, and did the president have the authority to impose these taxes without Congress? Thousands of businesses sued, arguing emergency powers were misused for long-term trade protectionism. Lower courts were divided, leaving businesses in limbo. The Supreme Court had to decide if the president overstepped boundaries set by Congress. Plaintiffs argued the administration declared a national emergency for economic, not security, reasons, an unconstitutional overreach. Justices questioned whether trade disputes truly qualify as national security emergencies. The government insisted economic competition is tied to national security, justifying the tariffs. The stage was set for a landmark decision on presidential authority in global economic rivalry. This afternoon, the Supreme Court delivered a decisive 7-2 ruling. The majority declared the Trump-era tariffs unconstitutional, finding the administration exceeded its authority. The court drew a clear line: the president cannot unilaterally impose broad trade taxes without a specific congressional mandate. The ruling invalidates the legal foundation of the tariffs and halts their collection immediately. Most significantly, it opens the door for businesses to claim refunds, potentially over $100 billion. This creates a massive budget challenge for the government. Dissenting justices argued for presidential flexibility and national security, but the majority reasserted congressional authority. The decision is a powerful check on executive power in international trade. For businesses, it's a stunning reversal of fortune. For the government, it's a financial and political reckoning. The Supreme Court's decision triggered swift, divided reactions in Washington. Democrats and critics hailed it as a victory for the rule of law and a check on executive overreach. Supporters of the tariffs condemned the ruling as judicial activism that weakens America's economic defenses. Former President Trump called it a terrible decision for American workers, while his allies warned it strips the presidency of vital tools. The Biden administration, caught in the middle, issued a cautious statement, reviewing the decision and its implications. The political fallout will dominate Congress for months, with calls for new legislation and hearings on the tariffs' impact. The legal battle is over, but the political fight over America's trade future is just beginning. The debate has moved from the courtroom back to the political arena. For American businesses, today's ruling marks the end of a long and turbulent chapter. After years of uncertainty and upheaval, companies across the country are finally seeing a glimmer of hope. The decision brings closure to a period that tested the resilience and adaptability of countless organizations, both large and small. While a handful of domestic producers saw short-term gains, the vast majority of manufacturers, especially those dependent on global supply chains, were thrown into disarray. They faced not only chaos in their operations, but also skyrocketing costs for essential materials and components. Many had to scramble to find new suppliers, renegotiate contracts, and absorb unexpected expenses just to keep their doors open. Small and medium-sized businesses bore the brunt of the impact. With thinner margins and fewer resources, they were often forced to make painful decisions, absorbing heavy losses, laying off loyal employees, or passing higher prices on to customers. For many, the struggle was not just about profit, but about survival itself. The constant uncertainty made it nearly impossible to plan for the future. Investments were put on hold, expansion projects shelved, and growth strategies abandoned. Business leaders found themselves in a holding pattern, unable to commit to new hires or equipment upgrades, unsure of what the next quarter would bring. One CEO summed it up: "For years, we didn't know what our material costs would be from one month to the next. Every decision felt like a gamble." How can you plan, invest, or innovate in that kind of environment? The stress and frustration were felt at every level, from the boardroom to the shop floor. Now, the prospect of refunds offers a much-needed lifeline. These funds could help pay down mounting debts, bring back furloughed workers, or finally, invest in the new equipment and technology that had been put off for so long. For many, it's a chance to catch their breath and start rebuilding. Still, business leaders caution that financial relief alone can't undo the damage. Refunds won't bring back lost customers, repair broken relationships, or erase the years of stress and missed opportunities. The emotional and economic scars run deep, and the market share lost to foreign competitors during this period won't be regained overnight. American companies now face the challenge of rebuilding their reputation and regaining ground in a fiercely competitive global marketplace. Still, the end of tariffs brings a renewed sense of predictability. With clearer rules and fewer surprises, companies can finally plan ahead, make strategic investments, and focus on growth rather than crisis management. The scars from the trade war remain, but for the first time in years, businesses can look to the future with cautious optimism. The path forward won't be easy, but at least it's visible. Now the focus shifts from mere survival to rebuilding and renewal. In this new post-tariff world, American businesses are ready to adapt, innovate, and reclaim their place on the global stage. While businesses fought the tariff battle, American consumers quietly paid the price. Tariffs were taxes on imports, and the cost was passed down to shoppers. Studies show tariffs cost households billions through higher prices on everyday goods. This regressive tax hit low and middle-income families hardest, straining budgets nationwide. The end of tariffs should bring relief, as lower import costs force retailers to cut prices. Shoppers can expect prices to stabilize or drop in coming months, boosting purchasing power. However, some higher costs may linger as companies shifted supply chains during the trade war. The debate continues: did tariffs really boost American jobs or just burden consumers? The ruling reopens questions about balancing the interests of shoppers, workers, and industries. The impact of the trade war will be felt long after the tariffs are gone. The Supreme Court's decision has reignited the debate among economists over tariffs' true impact. Many free market advocates applaud the ruling, calling tariffs a self-inflicted wound that raised costs and hurt growth. They argue removing tariffs will lower inflation, boost investment, and benefit consumers. Mainstream economists see this as a return to more open, prosperous trade policy. But economic nationalists argue tariffs were necessary to counter unfair competition, especially from China. They say the ruling ignores the strategic need to protect American industry and national security. For them, the pain of tariffs was a worthwhile investment in rebuilding domestic capacity. They worry the decision signals weakness to foreign rivals. This fundamental disagreement, efficiency versus protectionism, will shape the next era of trade policy. The economic debate is far from settled. With the Trump-era tariffs struck down, the U.S. faces a turning point in trade policy. The ruling doesn't outlaw tariffs, but limits the president's power to impose them unilaterally. Congress now must define the future of American trade. New legislation and debates are coming, with some seeking to restore presidential authority, others pushing for a trade law overhaul. The decision will impact relationships with trading partners, possibly easing tensions and encouraging negotiation. For businesses and consumers, the end of tariffs brings stability and lower costs. But big questions remain. How will the U.S. compete with state-subsidized industries? How will it secure critical supply chains? The Supreme Court's decision closes one chapter, but opens many others. How America navigates this new era will define its prosperity and power for decades to come.